Growth. So growth means there is an increase in the size or mass of the tissues, and this increase in size or mass of the tissues is due to multiplication of the cells, and there is an increase in the intracellular content. And this growth is a measure of physical maturation, and the growth can be assessed quantitatively by measuring the body dimensions, that is height in centimeters and weight in kilograms. So growth means it is an increase in size or mass of the tissues that occurs due to multiplication of cells and increase in intracellular content, and this growth is a measure of physical maturation. This growth is assessed by quantitatively measuring body dimensions, that is height in centimeters and weight in kilograms. So growth and development are entirely different. Growth is a measure of physical maturation, whereas this development is a measure of functional maturation in a child. So this development is assessed qualitatively by evaluating various functions by the developmental milestones, and this development denotes acquisition of variety of skills for optimal functioning of the individual, and new skills are attributed to the myelination of nervous system. So this is all about growth and development, and there are factors which affect the growth. There are certain factors which affect the growth, and they include genetic factors, environmental factors, social factors, endocrinal factors, nutritional factors, and other factors like trauma to epiphysis, infections, infestations, cultural factors, and drugs. So genetic factors include phenotype, race, sex, biorhythm, and maturation. Genetic disorders. So first genetic factor is phenotype. So phenotype means the parental traits are transmitted to the offspring, and that is genetically determined. So this will also affect the growth. Like the growth is based on the parental trait. And the second genetic factor is race. So the growth will be different in different races. Growth potential of children from various racial groups are different. So the next factor is sex. So sex means boys will have a tall and heavy body than the girls at birth, but the growth spurt will be earlier in girls than the boys. So this is the sexual factor that affects growth. And the fourth factor is biorhythm and maturation. So example for biorhythm and maturation affecting the growth will be menarche. So daughters will attain menarche at a similar age as that of their mother. And then genetic disorders will also affect growth. Turner syndrome and Down syndrome are genetic disorders which will retard the growth. So the next group of factor affecting the growth would be environmental factors. So environmental factors during prenatal period include maternal malnutrition, maternal anemia, maternal tobacco and alcohol abuse, and all these will lead to IUGR and small sized fetus, and multiple pregnancies, medical illnesses during pregnancy, maternal infections, drugs, irradiation, stress, post-maturity, abnormal presentation. All these are some conditions which will retard the growth of the child. And there are obstetric disorders which will retard the fetal growth, and they include pregnancy-induced hypertension, preeclampsia, and medical disorders of chronic nature. So these are the environmental factors in the prenatal period, whereas the environmental factors in postnatal period include neonatal hypoxia and convulsions which can cause brain damage, and nutritional disorders in postnatal period like protein energy malnutrition, anemia, and vitamin deficiencies. They can also retard the growth of the child. And if there's any diarrhea and recurrent infections, diarrhea means which can be diarrhea can be persistent or recurrent, and respiratory tract infections. All these will also affect the growth of the child. So these are the environmental factors during postnatal period. So next, coming to social factors, there are four main social factors: socio-economic level, that is high socio-economic level; second is poverty; third is climate; and fourth is emotional factors. So high socio-economic level, so obviously children from high socio-economic families will have obesity, overweight, etc., and children from high socio-economic factors will have fewer infections because they are brought up in a better hygienic living conditions. But the next factor is poverty, which is just opposite. So in poverty, there'll be hunger, undernutrition, infections. All these will affect or retard the growth of the child. So next social factor is climate. So climate also, surprisingly, it affects the growth of the child. The growth rate will be higher during spring season and the growth rate will be lower during summer season. Next, emotional factors. So children from broken homes and orphans, they do not grow and develop at an optimal rate as the normal children, because children from broken homes and orphans, they will have anxiety, insecurity, and they will be suffering from lack of emotional support, and there will be lack of love from the family, and all these will affect the neurochemical regulation of the hormones of the child, and this will also retard the growth of the child. Emotionally, if they are affected, especially those from broken homes and orphans, they will also have growth retardation since they are emotionally insecure. And next group of factors include endocrinal factors. So endocrinal factors means, there is a deficiency in the hormones that are required for growth and development of the child. So the hormones that are necessary for growth and development include growth hormone, thyroxine, androgens, and insulin. If they are deficient, it will affect the growth of the child. If they are normal, the child will be of normal growth, and if they are excess, there will be an increased height, weight, etc. So these are the endocrinal factors. And nutritional factors include undernutrition and overnutrition. Both will affect the growth of the child. So undernutrition include deficiency of proteins, calories, micronutrients, and overnutrition can lead to obesity. And if any chronic illness is present, that can lead to poor nutrition, which will also affect the growth of the child. So the other factors include trauma to epiphysis, which can retard the growth of the child, and drugs containing androgenic hormones will accelerate the growth of the child, but the epiphyseal fusion will occur earlier. Then infections and infestations will reduce the velocity of the growth of the child. And last factor will be cultural factors. So cultural factors, actually, in our culture, there are many, not only in our culture, generally there are cultural taboos and superstitious beliefs, and these cultural taboos and superstitious beliefs will strongly influence the child rearing and feeding practices in each and every community. So they are the cultural factors which can affect the growth of the child, either positively or negatively. So these are the 9 main factors affecting the growth, that is genetic factors, environmental factors, social factors, endocrinal factors, nutritional factors, trauma to epiphysis, drugs with androgenic hormones, infections, infestations, and cultural factors.